Now we're going to go into our running back section. This week, Che, who have you got?
I'm going with J.K. Dobbins, running back for the Baltimore Ravens, as he goes up against the Cleveland Browns. Now, the Cleveland Browns are 30th against the running back. What can we say about the Cleveland Browns run defense? I call it an Ole Matador defense. They're letting everyone run through there. Everyone can run in there, march, mariachi dance, you name it, all in that, march up in that defense. I think J.K. Dobbins is going to do the same. He's going up against his division rival. And it's not recency bias. It's just there's things that I've seen, and obviously the history of J.K. Dobbins whilst he's been a Raven just points to him having a big game. For example, he's clearly the number one running back. I mean, let's face it, right? He had, 43% of the snaps, offensive snaps, 15 carries for 120 yards, 1 touchdown. Gus Edwards, on the other hand, was only lined up 34% of the time. He had 13 carries and no targets for 66 yards. Meanwhile, Kenyon Drake had 18% snaps, 1 carry for 2 targets. What does that tell me? Well, that tells us that at the end of the day, Kenyon Drake is going to be potentially the check down option for Huntley, the standing quarterback or the backup quarterback for Lamar Jackson. And he's possibly going to be used, Kenyon Drake is, as the check down option on the blitzes, split wide as and when Tyler Huntley needs him to, or the offensive coordinator, Greg Roman, requires him to actually catch some short routes. However, for the most part, Kenyon Drake's the check down option. What does that mean then for J.K. Dobbins? Well, it seems like being the number one receiver, Gus Edwards is going to be used to help preserve J.K. Dobbins' reps, simply because he's coming back from that knee injury, I beg your pardon, from last season, which completely commandeered season, unfortunately. And so because of that, I think that the main risk is that his knees don't give out. However, the way he was running and getting those tough yards last week against the Steelers, I don't think he's going to be a problem this week. I think that J.K. Dobbins is that guy. I think this is the perfect matchup for him. And I just think that the offense is his as far as the running back position. J.K. Dobbins is my running back of week 15. And so, yeah, let's get it.
Again, another excellent pick, and it's going to be pretty difficult to kind of top that one. But I think I may have done it this week with my pick, the Kansas City Chiefs, Jerick McKinnon, as he squares off against the Houston Texans. So let me just set the table with regards to McKinnon. Last week, he actually caught 7 passes for 112 yards and 2 touchdowns, as well as rushing the ball 6 times for 22 yards in the Sunday's win against the Denver Broncos, 34-28. In terms of fantasy impact, he was dominant on Sunday, scoring twice and leading the team in receiving and rushing. He's breaking off big plays after big plays each week. And this week, he gets the team with the most rushing yards of the season. Now, if you want any kind of indication of what Houston are about on the ground, go and watch the Houston game against the Cowboys last week, as Tony Pollard absolutely run roughshod up against the Houston Texans. They are there to be run at. They are a run funnel defense. And if there's any week to kind of pick up a guy that's going to be a dead cert, this is the week. Week 15, playoffs on the line, win or go home. Pick up Jerick McKinnon. Yes, Isaiah Pacheco's there. And yes, there is an opportunity for him to kind of get touches as well. But in this offense with Andy Reid, where the ball is being slung each way and everywhere, McKinnon is a trusted asset in this offense. And Patrick Mahomes trusted him so much up against the vaunted Broncos defense last week. And he managed to get himself in excess of over 100 yards last week, 75 of them in the air. So McKinnon, a great pickup this week and my start of the week.
Again, good start of the week. My pushback is this. When I look at Tony Pollard, or when I review what Tony Pollard did last week, he seemed to make a lot of his big gains off of runs. When I look at McKinnon, he's clearly their running back that actually is the pass-catching running back, where, as I mentioned before, Pacheco is their north-south first and second down running back, whilst I think they've brought in Melvin Gordon as the third, fourth down running back, more fourth down stroke end zone, punching it in, the role that the now injured Clyde Edwards-Helaire used to fulfill. So the argument is there that Pacheco is going to be the guy that gets those ground yards, and it's the ground yards that's going to get the gains versus Houston as opposed to the passing game. Now, I know Houston have a lower ranking, and in fact, I think they're the second or third worst, if not the worst, pass defending team in rankings. However, we know that Patrick Mahomes spreads that ball around, and the biggest volume of targets in their ex-receiver is a Travis Kelce. Then you've got Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and now Juju Smith-Schuster's back. So arguably, what's to say that their passing yards or their passing targets will not eclipse and also take away from McKinnon? What would you say to that?
That's a great valid point, actually. Again, it's definitely valid that a lot of the people that have kind of had success on the ground were primarily downhill runners. However, the pushback to that would be, if you look at obviously the opponents that the Texans have faced all season, they have had trouble with running backs who are obviously natural downhill runners, but they also catch the ball naturally, more so than this season with Tennessee Titans, where Derrick Henry ran for in excess of 134 yards, whilst having 65 of those being receiving yards. This is a team that struggle in all aspects of running the ball. It's a pandemic. It's something that they need to fix, but they won't fix because they're ultimately going to get the #1 pick. On top of that, is when they faced the Giants, and Saquon Barkley managed to get himself in excess of 6 targets for 35 yards. Again, that's receiving work. So again, this, as mentioned before, the Texans don't know how to defend any aspects of the ground, so that's there for the taking. In terms of what he is in this offense, if you look last week against the Denver Broncos, he was primarily at the back where they chose to throw the ball to in that offense when everybody was getting kind of locked up by Patrick Surtain and co. It was a struggle, but they picked on McKinnon. That tells you something. That tells you that they do trust this guy, despite the emergence of the rookie Pacheco. And that kind of trust in the NFL is something that is most likely to be carried over in multiple games. And if you look at kind of his season so far, he's actually done really well in terms of being able to kind of sustain his production. In kind of but the majority of the games this season, he's managed to get himself in excess of 6 to 8 to actually 5 targets per game in terms of receiving work. So this is a guy who is accustomed to being the primary receiving back, so much so that they've allowed Clyde Edwards-Helaire to kind of take more of a back seat, and even allowed kind of Pacheco to take more of a back seat, despite he being a very talented rookie. And they've gone to the veteran McKinnon and said, "Hey, you're going to be part of this passing offense." And if there's one thing we know, is that you want to be part of this passing offense for the Chiefs. And that not only bodes well for him personally, but it bodes well for any managers that do have him, because that equals a lot of points. So you have the volume play that we've had in the past, but we also have the ceiling, which is 32 points against a very tough defense last week against the Broncos. Now we come to this week, where, as mentioned before, he gets the worst team in terms of running the ball, in terms of throwing the ball. They can be got at, and I fully expect for him primarily to be the game plan. Hence the reason I think he's going to be an absolute smash play this week, and mine must start on week 15.
Comprehensive answer. Can't say I can dispute that. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What we're saying is that, again, the Houston Texans are part of that Olay defense Matador crew, and they can't defend a bath, as I like to say, but a running bath. So it's looking good for McKinnon in that case. Let's see what happens.
Definitely. But as always, like, subscribe, comment, let us know who you pick, and we'll certainly interact with you in the comments.